Hi everyone, welcome to Sunday Social, Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. This should be an interesting show, but before we do that, should we do a wristwatch check? Should we dive in? Patrick, you're in the bottom corner. Where are you and what are you wearing?
Well, I'm in Las Vegas. I'm on a little family vacation, impromptu style, and being that I own zero gold watches at the moment, I wore the closest thing I've got, which is a bronze watch. So I'm wearing the Tudor Black Bay bronze on a beautiful little green Vanguard strap, and I'm Captain Casual as always.
Any more patina? Any more patina update? Patina
Patina update. I don't really see much of an update. So
There was the crown last time.
yeah, the crown was the dirty bugger the last time, and it definitely has more patina. I might see a little patina around the top of the crown, like on the case, but I'm not seeing it in my classic spots that I would see it on my 925. Usually in the corners of the bezel, I would start to catch it, but so far, decently not so patinaed.
Awesome. Dave, you're up next. What are you wearing?
I have my Grand Seiko SBGW257J, so it's the platinum re-edition of the original Grand Seiko wristwatch.
Wow, that looks gorgeous. I can only see it on here, but wow.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, wow.
Can't complain too much about that one. So very nice. We hand wind one.
Wow, looks awesome. Looks awesome. Mark, what you wearing?
I have a Citizen dive watch. Don't know what the model is, but because it was minus 15C yesterday in New Jersey, I wanted something that was a little bit summery, and it's got the Caribbean islands picked out in Loom on the dial. So much more appropriate. Makes me think of warm vacations rather than the cold of New Jersey.
Awesome. Todd, what are you wearing?
Interesting. Mark and I are on the same page. I'm wearing one of my favorite travel watches. It's a Citizen. I can't remember the model number, but it's a world time, and it's also a perpetual calendar. And I love, and 200 meters of water resistance. This is a fantastic do-it-all watch if you're traveling.
Awesome. And then I mean, what I'm actually wearing is my Seiko speed timer, but what I've been wearing all day, because I've been doing a review of it, was Citizen sent me in one of these Ecozillas, which is
that's a win.
Oh, that's a chunk.
Have you seen that? It's a 300-meter dive watch, massive bezel. It's quite the beast. It doesn't wear too bad, actually. 48 mil, obviously it's circular, so 48 mil all around. It's got the diver's extension as well, which is a separate piece of rubber band, which I'm sure will be staying in the box. And I bet 99% of people it stays in the box as well. But anyway,
do me a favor, Sam. See on it. See on the bezel, there's a knurled ring on the outside.
Yeah, doesn't move.
Does it unscrew?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything. It does. I'm pretty sure it doesn't do anything, because I've actually been trying to.
The reason I ask is I've got the mechanical version of that watch, which they did a few years back, and that knurled ring you could unscrew and take the bezel off, so you could clean out the spring underneath it. And I was wondering whether the Ecozilla one, they had moved that feature across onto the chrome. It's quite tight, and I think it's a reverse thread, if I remember, so it goes the opposite way to you think, so clockwise to loosen.
Well, there's no arrows on it, so there's no. But it's got the knurling. You're right. It looks like it does something.
It's exactly the same, because I've seen all the pictures of it, and it's identical to the mechanical one. But maybe check in the box if they sent you and see if there's a strange looking little metal spare one in the box, because the mechanical one used to come with a spare spring, so you could clean it out and service it. It's like a little leaf spring.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely will do that. I've seen some other people's reviews of it as well, but you're right, they might not have noticed it either, because it's not overtly obvious. The instructions I don't think show it, but I'll certainly give it a go. This is a loan anyway, so it's got to go back to them.
It's a cool looking watch.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's dive into the main event, and a little tiny disclaimer before we start this. These questions we made up just for fun, just for amusement. This isn't a proper test that will be scoring. And if you get 1 out of 10, you are, I think a couple of us might score 2 out of 10. So don't, it's just purely for fun and a nice little clickbaity title, just a little bit of amusement. So, Mark, do you want to intro this list for us? Because you came up with the original idea, even though I'm trying to pass it off as if it's my idea.
Yeah, this was a list of 10 questions culled from social media over the last 12 months, the things that you might see most often or hear most often. And I thought, well, is this a representation of the modern watch enthusiast? So if you wish to score along, if you answer yes to a question, that's 1 point. And if you answer no to a question, that's 0 points. So you could score 10 out of 10, or you could score much lower, and leave it to the comments to decide what a pass mark is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're basically going to go through each question and have a little bit of a discussion, and then let us know in the comments section what you guys think as well. So first question on the list is, you own, have owned, or want to own a Rolex? Do we think this is a good measure of being a watch enthusiast? A proper watch enthusiast?
No, I don't. That's not a good measure. There's a lot of people buy the Rolex just to buy the Rolex. It's not because they like watches.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, would you like to say something here? I'm not sure if you're a current or a former Rolex owner now.
I shouldn't probably say too much on this subject, but yeah, no. Do you know what? Let's make it real simple. If you actually like a Rolex for the sake of actually liking a Rolex, good on you. Fair enough, no problem. Is it a prerequisite? Absolutely not. So, I have had, do not have, and will not probably have another one. Although I'll never say never. They'll pull something weird out of the ether at some point, and I'll probably go, actually, that's quite a nice watch. But if the question, I guess, is, do you have to own a Rolex watch to be a watch person? No, you absolutely do not. Arguably, you're less of a watch collector if you actually do buy Rolexes.
Man, that's meaner than my comment.
That's me being reserved.
If you have a YouTube channel and you want to increase the clicks, put Rolex in the title.
Hey,
not clickbait.
I've only done that a handful of times.
I've only done that a handful of times every time.
Yes, a handful of times every time.
I think there's a podcast that has Rolex in their title often too, and does quite well whenever the Rolex is in the title.
Yeah.
Patrick, go on. You're a non-roll. You have a Sky Dweller.
Well, see, and here's my love-hate of Rolex, because it's complicated. I think Rolex makes a mighty fine watch.
Yep.
And that is the nicest thing I can say about Rolex. It's not their fault. It's the community's fault for tarnishing Rolex's image to me, which, as I said, makes it a complicated thing. Because, when my biggest pet peeve of Rolex is when someone justifies a Rolex price, but then downgrades a maybe better or more interesting watch's price based on a Rolex. So
yeah.
They'll easily pay $12,000 for a Submariner, but the minute you say you're getting a Zinn dive watch for $3,000, they're like, oh, "You're going to spend $3,000 on that?" And that's my biggest pet peeve of Rolex. But in terms of Rolex, do I own? Yes, I have a Sky Dweller. Do I want another? Yes, I actually want the Starbucks, because to me it is such an iconic watch, and I love the Papa Green, that is the reason I want it. And if they ever made a titanium Yachtmaster, I might want that too, because I want something on an Oyster Flex. And if they do that, I'll probably go with that.
Yeah.
If they offered me a Daytona, I would laugh in their faces and say, "It's the ugliest watch on the planet. No, thank you."
Okay.
Well, actually, let me throw one quick thing in there, just because I made no friends the other day when I went to a Red Bar event. The owner of the Red Bar event just swindled a poor old man out of 2 Paul Newman Daytonas.
Allegedly.
Well, I mean, he did it fairly. He the seller went to another store where he was lowballed 65 grand a piece, and this buyer pretty much said, "Ooh, well, I'll give you $5,000 more a piece." And then laughed his way to the bank because he goes, this one's 95 easy, and he goes, this one's probably 115 easy. So, but hey, you can't blame the guy for not going on Google and learning what the prices of his watches were. So, I can't be mad at the buyer for that. But, as I said, and I told him straight to his face, I go, yeah, those are fine. I just don't like Rolex Daytonas. And he just looked at me like I was speaking another language. But as I said, that's just the way I am. It's a watch that does absolutely nothing for me. And even though those things are worth the price of a house, I wasn't impressed one bit.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, before we get in any more trouble, let's swiftly move on to the...
I love to see Sam sweat.
Whoa. Second question. You have owned, or want to own a Tudor, could also be Cartier instead.
Well,
I think I've been very transparent on this show every time I've been on. I have 4 Tudors and I love them.
I had the Black Bay 58, but I did fall into the... I think there's I don't know if this is an actual phenomenon, but I'm sure there's like a Black Bay 58 kind of curse, the standard one, because I think a lot of people sell them after a while of having them. I mean, that's no gauge on me because I would have probably sold it even if nobody else had sold it. But yeah, I had a Tudor. I would buy another one. Yeah. Anybody else want to take it, Dave?
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal how many Tudors I own, but yes.
Yeah, Andre's saying rather
the
Tudor than a Rolex.
The bracelet on the Tudor is just it's miles above anything else in my collection. It's hard to describe. It's buttery is the best. I love my Tudors. I love I bought my wife even one for our anniversary last year, so she also has a Tudor.
Yeah. I like all of them. I'm not ultra keen on the kind of rivet bracelet. It doesn't stop me buying them, but I would rather it wasn't a rivet bracelet, frankly. But that's the thing. I love the quirky things they do. I love the fact that they do quirky things. I've still got a little thing in the back of my head that says like hate's too strong a word. The Rolex thing, like I guess some of you have said, it's kind of like the whole image that goes with certain people that go with it rather than the actual product. The product's a great product. I don't like all of it. I don't like all of Omega's either, to be fair. I don't like all of any brand, to be honest. But Tudor makes some cool stuff, and they make some funky stuff. Like I've got a PO1. That's a fantastic watch. That's a watch that it was a pretty brave move for them to make that watch because it's fugly as hell, and it's really not mainstream. And it's a cool product. The FXD is a pretty cool product. They got into the whole left-hand drive Pelagos thing years before. Really, the only other brands that were doing it were brands like Zinn, who were doing kind of the weird and wonderful stuff. None of the mainstream brands were doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do quite like Tudor for what they're doing. I wish they would get their proportions in-house though, like the whole Black Bay thing. They're too tall for the size of them.
Yeah.
I'd say the only Tudor I ever wanted to own was the North Flag.
A cool watch.
Very cool watch. Cool. And I looked at it a couple of times and then went and bought a Seamaster instead. Yeah.
Super. That watch was one of those ones though that I had my eye on and I kept going, that's quite a funky watch. But there was always something else.
Yes.
And then it was too
something
late.
Else I wanted more.
Then it was too late. And it was like, damn, I should really have got one of them. It was quite a cool watch. And every time I see one now, and you don't see many of them, even in the wild, you do not see them very often. And when you do see one, you think, that's pretty cool, that watch. That wee pop of yellow on it. It was just a good looking watch. And proportionally, it was actually pretty bang on.
And it was one of those watches that if you had it on the bracelet or the strap, totally changed its character. So you'd have to have the bracelet and the strap and be able to swap them out depending on mood, because its character changed so much. But like I said, I bought a Seamaster.
I think it's was it the Black Shield as well? The ceramic one they did quite a while back. One. Yeah, Ricky's got one of them, and actually every time I see it, I'm kind of like, that's actually a really cool watch. And again,
he had the Ducati Special Edition, I think.
He did the Ducati Special, but again, that watch, okay, there was plenty of other folk doing ceramic, but it was into ceramic, like when they did the ceramic one, whatever it was, 18 months ago, everyone's, oh, look, amazing, they've done ceramic. And you're like, yeah, they've done that a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, my short answer on that is yes, I love Tudor. And I like their weird materials. As I've got their bronze, I've got their silver, and if I could find a gold eventually for more around 10,000, I would buy it. And I love the North Flag. I've seen a couple of them pop up on Chrono for a pretty reasonable price, and I've been very close, but kind of like you, Mark, it was just something else got in the way, and I said, ooh, I bought this that month, and I put myself an allowance and said, hey, I'm only allowed to buy one watch a month, and I like being married and I want to stay that way. But I think Tudor is a great brand.
Awesome. Well, should we dive into the next question then? The best watch size is 40 millimeters or smaller.
999.
No.
No. Long live the Ploprof.
No, yeah, true.
Okay, we're going to move swiftly on from that then.
Well, let me defend it real quick, because I might be the most on that page just because I think the 40 is perfect. I don't know about going the much less. I mean, as I said, I've got bigger watches. I mean, I've got a 44 Panerai. I've got, the Sky Dweller. I definitely own some bigger watches. But yes, when I get a 40 on my wrist and even a 38, I mean, I can't lie to myself. It really is a sweeter spot. It just does fit better. But, some of the watches that we love, if they had a small face and hands, kind of like a 38 would have, it just wouldn't be the same watch. So, I getting on the plane here, I complimented a guy on his Panerai because I could see it from a mile away. And I was like, hey, love your Panerai. And, if it was a 36 mil, I probably wouldn't have seen it. So I agree. I love that size, but still, long live big watches.
Yeah, I saw somebody in the wild wearing an AP chronograph, a Royal Oak chronograph, and I'd never seen anybody wear one in the wild before.
Yeah, I saw Richard Mill yesterday on our way to dinner, and I looked over and I saw his not cool jacket and his not cool shoes, and I immediately realized that this guy was going to be wearing a nice watch, and I looked over, I'm like, better than I thought. So, Vegas.
I will say it's for me, it's like that. There's a watch for every situation, but the 36 millimeter, it is the most comfortable daily wear watch. It's the one I wear the most when I'm just around the house or whatever, because you kind of just, you forget about it. It's just very comfortable and easy to wear. But do I like wearing a big honking watch? Yeah, I do at times, but the everyday watch, I do love a 36. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I like 40. I've got this 41, and obviously my date just is 41 mil as well. I'm amazed at the feedback I get on my date just video, how many people think that's monstrously big, but I really like it. Fits the back of your wrist perfectly. Anyway,
you've got a good size wrist for that. At 7.25. That's a good size wrist.
I mean,
okay. Oops, sorry, Mark.
I was looking at my collection, and the couple of watches that were 40 and under, and the 40s are gradually moving out. They're all going to 42, 43 now. And I've got smaller wrists than Sam.
Oh, that's my negative point. -1 point. Okay, next up is you like NATO straps. I like a NATO, but Patrick,
I like them in principle.
Or anti-NATO?
Oh, yeah. I hate NATOs. I mean, it's I get their purpose. Their purpose just isn't for me, because I don't want a taller watch, and a NATO by definition is going to give you a taller watch. And I'm all about, which is why Seiko Todd isn't here, so I don't get to tease him about his Speedmaster love and my somewhat lack of. But you're making a watch that's waterproof, now have a wet piece of fabric on my wrist. So once again, it goes against me living a functional life with my watch, because I wear my watches. And so I think some watches look great on NATO. So as I said, I'm not against them as a class, but for me personally, I would never do a NATO.
Mm-hmm.
I like them in principle. I like the way they look, but I think we talked about it on here. It tends to be the only ones that actually cause spring bar failure for me. I've only had spring bars pop when I'm wearing a NATO,
Yeah.
not on a regular watch, because of the way it's kind of pulling down and around, and it's not really a direct pull. Like, and so I like them, but I think you need a fixed lug watch for that.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. I do like I like the idea and I like the look sometimes of NATOs. I think the biggest problem in NATOs is there is an expectation that they are cheap and cheerful and replaceable. And therefore, most of the ones you buy, frankly, are cheap crap. And everyone gets their heads up in their head and they're like, what's going on? How dare Omega try and charge you, $200, $300 for a NATO strap, until you actually try one and you go, well, actually, that's really comfortable and it kind of fits and it kind of works. Oh, and all the little bits that don't move on the other ones do move, so they're adjustable. And suddenly you can actually make it fit and it kind of actually works. And I don't typically go NATO at all. But my ultra deep titanium only comes on a NATO because it's got the Manta lug on it.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it's a good strap. It is a really good strap. And when you adjust it properly and it fits properly, it's super comfortable. But it's also ridiculously expensive for, in theory, a bit of cloth. But then in saying that, a lot of the leather straps are a bit of leather and they're not exactly cheap, are they?
Yeah.
No.
Omega makes a great NATO strap.
They do.
I've seen them. They've tried to sell them to me, and then you go, well, it's making a big watch even taller because it's passing under, and then you've got all this material gathered up at the side because I've got small wrists. So now a big watch looks even bigger, and then why do I have this huge pile of material at the side? Now, and I don't like that coarse nylon on the skin either. So NATO's not for me.
I like him. I'm a fan. I am a fan of NATOs. I do like them. The only one I've ever been annoyed with was the one that came on the Black Bay 58, but that was the principle of the thing rather than the actual feel of the NATO.
They had a whole sales pitch to go along with it. How special that strap was.
Like on a tapestry machine or something.
Oh, it's a Jacquard
loom.
Yeah,
Jacquard loom.
Yeah, awesome. Well, next one is you have at least as many spare straps as you have watches.
Way more.
Yeah, way more. Me too. I just did a whatnot sale of extra straps that I had, but I've still got a bunch. I know where was it? James was saying. James Duffy was saying about the leather NATO. I like leather NATOs as well, but yeah, I have a ton of spare watch straps for. That was the annoying thing with this being in 21 mil. Was because I'd have a ton of spare straps on mine. Anybody not have extra?
Well, that's the. I don't know if I get to give myself points. I don't know if I get to give myself points for this or not, because so far I've got points for everything but the NATO. But this one I'm on the fence because I don't think I have as many as I have watches, but I definitely have spares. So if I have 15 watches, but I only have 7 straps, do I get to give myself a point for this, or is this not a point? I need the judges to give me a ruling.
I'd say no.
Okay.
Because some people might have 3 watches and 40 straps.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm inferring too. So okay, I'll give myself a no for this.
Because I can say, well, I've got spare straps. Some of them have, you buy a watch on a bracelet and the strap comes with it. Fair enough. I've got a couple of watches like that. But some people go out and say, I am going to buy straps. And Jody from Just One More Watch, he's a classic. You go, I've got a box of straps. No, I don't have a box of straps. I've only ever bought one and I've never used it.
So you must have never shopped on Straps Co. They get me every time with their buy 2 get 1 free deal. So then immediately let me just keep shopping, and then you just keep adding to that cart.
Yeah, I've got more of a strap collector than a watch collector.
Yeah, see, I went the opposite way. It's like I cannot stand cheap straps. They drive me nuts. I hate straps that you think that they'll eventually conform to your wrist, and every time you take it off, it's like a ruler snapping back straight. Things like that. I can't stand those. But a friend who will be named anonymous actually managed to entice me into a particularly terrible habit, which is Hermes make the best watch straps, bar none, because they're the masters of leather. And if you annoy them enough, they also have a custom program where you can get leathers dyed and stained to match the way you want them. And yeah, you think collecting watches is expensive? Try getting into Hermes straps. That's like a whole different world of pain. But they are unbelievably comfortable and unbelievably, like, I've had bad watches. Like you get some cool watches that come on just bad straps. Like there's so many cool, I don't know, Seiko Prospexes, and the straps are just awful. And I find that it's a bit like shoes. If you put them on and they just don't fit or they don't feel good, you just don't wear them. And suddenly you can get a really good strap for a relatively inexpensive watch, where sometimes the straps is as much as the bloody watch is, but suddenly you start wearing it. And like, even an inexpensive watch that you don't wear is a really expensive watch in my eyes, because if you're not wearing it, what's the point in having it? You've just wasted the money. Whereas if you can make it wearable, even if it's a ludicrously expensive strap relative to the watch, suddenly it becomes quite good value.
Yeah, I agree with you. I should do a shout out for the channel sponsor, Man Cave Leather, or for all your premium handmade leather watches. He does an amazing job of them. But you're right. I went watch shopping with a friend, and it's amazing how people who are just like casual watch buyers judge buying a watch on what the strap looks like. And I was saying, I was like, forget the strap. Just go for the watch that you like. She was buying, watches with leather straps on. I'm like, this is the easiest thing for us to swap out. Don't base it on like the color of the strap or whether you like the strap or not, because we can actually change that out quite quickly.
Yeah. One of the best bit of kind of sales pitch I've heard actually was a kind of sales, I can't even remember what it was, but a salesperson that said to someone was looking at a watch and they were like, oh, think I like the color of the strap and stuff. And he just went, I can't even remember if it was a he or she, but they basically just said, look, a leather strap on a watch is like shoelaces in a shoe. Don't buy it based on that, because it's dead easy to change and it's dead cheap. And suddenly they were like, oh, that's a good call. And like, if you look at all the sneakerheads, they spend a fortune on laces. They'll buy sneakers at a couple of $100 and they will literally have 10 pairs of laces for every pair of sneakers they've got. It's not any different to straps for watches. It's the same game.
I have a sickness too, because Christopher Ward makes their vintage leather, their vintage oak leather straps are super comfortable, kind of like you're describing. And it's so comfortable, I get nervous that it's going to wear out too quick. And so I always end up putting on a different leather strap because I'm like, I don't want this strap to go bad.
Yeah, I've got one like that McCullough at Man Cave Leather made me. That's an alligator strap, and I've got it somewhere. It's pristine. It's a 20mm strap. I've maybe put it on the odd watch to do a video, but I'm scared of wearing it out. So it's pristine. I think I've got it in my. I'll have to look in my drawer here.
I've got
ridiculous.
A Christopher Ward that's on their version of a blue alligator.
Oh, right.
It's one of their moon phase, and
I love that
they don't make that strap anymore. So when that goes, I'm done. I'll have to find someone to make another one, because
Man Cave Leather.
It suits the watch so perfectly. I've had that watch 7 years now, and it just suits it perfectly.
Yeah, it is. There's my look at that, because this is sort of a little bit of a porous leather, so you can see it's not been worn. I've literally just had it on watches just for photos, but beautiful, like handmade alligator. And plus, McCullough can never make these again because he lives in Canada now, so you can't. I think you can't import exotic leathers in there. So this is it's a one-off. Awesome. Okay, next one up. You like vintage watches?
Your fries are done.
Somebody's
fire alarm.
I think that's me. Hold on a moment.
His kitchen's on fire.
If he doesn't come back, then I'm really worried.
Oh yeah.
I love vintage watches. I have only a couple in my collection right now. They make me nervous because I had no way to fix them, and they're expensive if they're really out there to take to your watch guy. So I love them in principle, but they make me nervous.
I'm 100% the same. I mean, luckily Todd's, who can't join us tonight, he sorted me out a Seiko that he's had properly serviced. So now I feel a lot more comfortable about buying vintage Seiko chronographs because there's a whole chain of people that look after them. But it certainly gives me pause. I don't know, Dave. Do you have much vintage in your collection?
Yes, but not anything of any value, if that makes sense. You know, like once you start falling into the hole of high-end pieces, let's say, you know, vintage, I don't know, Rolexes, Pateks, Omegas, whatever, you can, not always, but you can start getting into a whole world of additional expense when it comes to maintenance, upkeep, etc. And you just got that constant trepidation almost when you wear it. Well, where am I going? What am I going to do? Is there any potential this might get wet, stroke bang, stroke knock, stroke stolen, and all of these kind of things? And they get around your head. So I tend to dive into the pool of 50s and 60s and 70s Seikos and that kind of stuff, because even if they're not sometimes fixable if they go wrong, you've not sunk, you know, tens of thousands or tens of thousands into them. So you're kind of like, okay, I had a bit of fun with that and it's dead. Fine. I gave it a second chance at life, so to speak. Yeah. And most of them are built tough. You know, they're pretty durable anyway. And as you say, there's a massive network of people who are willing to not charge you the earth to kind of get them revived and up and going again, and a little bit of kind of like TLC, and they're up and going again. And also because they made so many of them, there's thousands of dead donor watches out there for the bits that you need. Whereas you go and you buy yourself a vintage Patek and something suddenly goes wrong and Patek tell you need to spend $6.2 million for them to remake one wheel. You know, and you know, whereas Seiko, you can dive onto the, you know, the bowels of eBay and you can usually find 4 or 5 dead ones, and between them you can find the bits you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's restorers like Spencer Klein who actually have made parts, specialist parts, and he's made that arbor that's got jewels in it. Yeah. That is actually an improvement on Seiko's original design. So, yeah, like,
and also you can also dive into the back catalogue, because, you know, for so many, not even years, decades, all of the crazy ass shit that Seiko used to make that was all JDM market. And, you know, suddenly you can dig this stuff up and it's just the weirdest and wonderfulest and wackiest stuff you've ever seen in your life. And you can get some really funky, cool stuff that, you know, hasn't ever seen the kind of light of our markets. And it's for not a lot of money.
Yeah, I was watching something. Spencer Klein actually did a video on a Seiko that was had a navigation dial, and nobody had ever seen it before. And in fact, on a forum, on the Seiko forum, people were telling the guy, look, it's probably fake. Like, we've never seen this before. And turns out it was a one-off, or it wasn't a one-off, but it was nobody had ever seen one before. But it was just Seiko just messing about with the dials, like you said. And
I mean, I managed to pick up a little vintage Credor, and it was a platinum and yellow gold case. It had no strap on it. The strap had been some form of kind of animal strap, and it was long gone. But it had the head of the watch. It had gold hands on it. It was a super thin, and it was a really high end quartz movement from back in the day. And the thing just needed, you know, it was immaculate. It still had the blue sticker on the back. That's how, you know, immaculate it was. I think it was 1979, 1980, something like that. Needed a little battery, you know, boof, up and going. Yes, I got one of those really arseholish Hermes straps on it, and it's an absolutely awesome watch. And I paid like £100 for it.
Wow.
You know,
lucky someone didn't melt it down.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. I don't even think they actually realized it was precious metal. They maybe thought it was gold plate or whatever. You know, and only when you got it and you started checking out the hallmarks and stuff, and it was for tiny, you could work out what it was. But it was such a cool wee piece for next to no money.
My watchmaker had this beautiful Universal Genève that's the one that looks like a Patek. That's like the calendar with the moon phase and the whole chronograph thing. And I was looking at, and he had such a cheap price on it. I was looking at like, but if this breaks, can you fix this for me? And he's just like, well, those parts are going to be very hard to source. And I just like, I can't bring myself to do it. It was such a cool watch, though. It was a gorgeous watch.
Yeah, you hear that about Universal Genève, don't you? That it seems to be the darling of a lot of YouTube channels, but
Yeah.
I've heard that they're very quite hard to service because they were all in-house or majority in-house movements.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or you dig into a lot of the Swiss stuff, from the 60s and 70s. That's relatively simple, not big complications on it. Do a bit of digging, you'll generally find out that a lot of them were based on a pretty stock ETA movement, which back in the day was seen as, where it had to be. And those stuff's super easy to service if you need to.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, next question is...
Wait, you left out the pocket watch guy on vintage.
A vintage guy.
So, well, I'm going to jump on Dave's one comment as why I love and dislove our good friends vintage. And it's mostly because vintage watches just aren't cool enough that I'm interested in most of them. And like Seiko making some really cool JDM ones and some odd case shapes and some of those are my favorite vintages. And maybe those are more neo vintage than, what maybe real vintage is. Obviously I love vintage pocket watches. That's its own thing. But if I was to buy watches, I don't really care about how old they are. I want it to be unique and fun. And back in the really, really vintage days, watches were just boring looking little watches. And so, they don't have that flavor that makes me want them. And then there's the pitfalls. I had a buddy of mine who's had a Waltham Maximus prototype movement that had been added extra jewels to turn it into a wristwatch, but he couldn't get it to run. There was like a problem with the balance, and he's like, he had a couple watchmakers, and I just, like you guys said, well, what am I going to do with it? I'm not better than watchmakers. Like, I can't fix that. So, now I'm going to be stuck with a really cool prototype movement that there are no parts for, and that you'll never get to work. So, even though my heart was like, ooh, that sounds cool, I don't need another desk ornament. So, vintage, super cool. Some of it for me, some of it not for me.
Well, you could commit a crime then, if you're never going to make it work. Encase it in resin and have it on your desk on a plinth.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I bought a really old Mont Blanc pen off eBay once, years and years and years ago. It was a really early one, and I sent it off to a pen restorer, and he's like, I just need another one. The parts aren't available. I would need another one to take apart to put the parts in there. So I ended up just selling it. Okay, next one up, we've got, where are we? Are you looking forward to Watches and Wonders? I think this is a good one. Because it's definitely an enthusiast thing, isn't it? Are you looking forward to Watches and Wonders? I think I'm going to give myself a point on there because I do like it. Also, it's good for content creators.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Scottish Watches review of Watches and Wonders.
Am I looking forward to it? Absolutely, yes. Then I looked at my diary, 38 appointments in 3 days. Can I give it a miss?
Am I looking forward to Watches and Wonders? No, because I'll have to write half the articles that go onto the Scottish Watches website.
Well, it was a great site to watch last year. I don't know if you were working with the Mark, but I know Ricky took loads of photos. You got to do some really cool stuff, didn't you, last year at the Watches and Wonders?
To be fair, like I as much as I joke, I guess it's like any trade show. It depends what you're going there for. If you go there with little agenda and you can wander about and just take ample opportunity to drink the goods that they're giving you in terms of the alcohol, it's good fun. But if you go there with a kind of like a agenda, it's just meeting, and it's in a big hall and it's really dry and it gets pretty intense pretty quick. And some of the appointments can be real good fun, and some of them you're just like, I need to go and see these guys, and that's the last thing I ever want to do in my life because I'm going to get talked at for about an hour. Or you go to some of them and it's really good fun, or you're trying to pretend that what they're showing you is amazing. Oh, lovely. Never seen anything like that before. Oh, how did you come up with that new watch? Oh, that's so original. And you're just like, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah, I heard about that with the Panhai E-Steel, like when they did that presentation, like it's recycled steel. I thought like a lot of steel was recycled. Like, there's been There's been a metal recycler in Stockport
Yeah.
probably since the 1800s.
But
Yeah,
you
and
get
why-
like, you
the
know,
Rag and Bone Man was doing. You know.
yeah.
Yeah. And why
Yeah, you get-
random recycled steel costs 30 grand more than normal steel? I don't get it either.
Yeah, I mean, you do get to, when you go to these things as well, though occasionally someone will pull something out and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. You know, like last year when Cartier, it was Cartier did the movement in the rotor.
Yeah.
You know, like no one saw that coming, and like when you see that for the first time in hand and not just a photo, you're like, crap, that's pretty amazing. Like, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, you'll go and you'll see Rolex and Tudor, and you'll be like, oh well, you know, that's yep, that's a slight iterative change on the
Shaved
one
off
that I saw last
0.5.
year.
Ah.
You know, but then you go to maybe Vacheron, not expecting to see much, and they pull out the re-edition of the 222. You know, so yeah, for sure, it's good fun. But it's also a fast route to bankruptcy. It's
That's
Yeah.
the
yeah.
rest of
Somebody put on
on the
Facebook
panel.
that movement, the Jaeger LeCoultre full-size movement. That you saw that, didn't you? It was like a huge working movement that it's like a foot tall or something. Incredible. Somebody put it on Facebook the other day.
I mean, if you want to see why watches are so expensive, go to Watches and Wonders, look at the stands, and then understand why watches are really, really expensive.
Marketing budget, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Michael,
I can't even remember what brand it was. One of the brands we went to, they were showing one watch which had completely sold out already, and you went in and they had a whole wall of screens, a DJ halfway up the wall, one watch and a plinth, and just a sign that said sold out. And you're literally just like, what are you even here for? Like, why have you just spent probably the best part of like high six figures on this stand? But welcome to Switzerland.
But you know, I think for us on the panel, particularly those who are content creators or run the most popular watch podcast in the world, we're not standard enthusiasts.
Yeah.
You know, sort of.
No, that's fair. You know,
I used to look forward to the old Basel world before everybody pulled out, because it was so diverse in what could be launched. You know, Watches and Wonders with the much smaller participant from the brands excites me much less.
I guess, well, you know, we're lucky that we get to go to these things for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like there's lots of folk would absolutely love to go to these shows, and the fourth or fifth or whatever time or the 10th time you've been is never the same as that first time you've been, because it's amazing. The first time you go, you just walk in and you're like, what is going on here? You know, it's just unbelievable. But some of the smaller shows are really good. Also, when Watches and Wonders on, there's lots of little, almost like sub shows or brands who are not allowed into the big show, so to speak, or can't afford to be in. And some of them are super interesting. You've got the growth of events like Geneva Watch Days, which I find personally are much better because they're one-on-one sit-downs with people and you get a bit more intimate, a bit more kind of down to the nitty-gritty. These big shows are pretty flashy, you know, and a lot of the staff in them, no disrespect to them, they're not watch people or they're not in the industry. They're kind of brought in to do events. And it's like they're very much running to a rote or a script that's like, this is X, blah, 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 blah. And if you push for a bit more, it's like, you just see the glazed look come over and it's like, does not compute, do not know answer to question. And then they kind of trot you out and you maybe get someone lucky to speak to. But, you know, they are, it's interesting. It's good that the shows are back on. It's nice that these things are alive again.
We should do a free plug here for Watch It All About in the UK in February. So, you know, they're gathering another 30 or so of the British watch brands in Warwickshire in early February. So if you're in the UK and in the Midlands, see if you can go to that. The details should be on the Watch It All About site.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So next up, we've got the Traveller GMT is best.
Watch snobbery at its finest.
Snobbery at its finest. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, Mark. Right. It's like, really, you know, yeah. Whatever.
Are we moving swiftly on from that one? Or
I think we have a full agreement by the panel.
Yeah. So should we just explain what a Traveller GMT is? It's basically the GMT. Is it the GMT hand moves independently of setting the main watch hands?
Yes. Because the
Yeah,
opposite
the hour.
GMT, you move the
one
hour
is-
hand,
one-
the GMT moves.
One is where you can move the hour hand and GMT hand independently of the minute and second hand, therefore keeping the timekeeping in check, so to speak, and you can just change your time zone. Whereas the other one is generally that the hour hand and the GMT hand are not interlinked. So generally you find that the GMT hand is interlinked to the date adjustment. So position 1, so one direction will change the date and one direction will change the GMT. Everyone fails to point out, though, that if you usually on a lot of watches, when you go to position 1, it doesn't affect the timekeeping either, because generally at position 1, the time keeps running. So there truly is very little actual real world difference other than generally snobbery. I've got a quote, true GMT. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 1960s when the pilot on that jumbo jet that might make it across the Atlantic had to adjust his time, whereas now they just look at a computer or their cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a good comment by James Duffy there as well.
Oh, yeah.
In full agreement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Okay, next, number 9 is you have a watch-specific social media account, e.g. Instagram, TikTok, or other.
Absolutely.
It's right down the list here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have no interest in the general public knowing anything about my personal life.
Well, I don't have much of a life, so the watch accounts are like
That's also fair, yeah. That's good for me as well.
You have to have the watch account because regular people think that you're a psycho just trying to show off. If you show your watches to your friends,
Yeah.
you have to be in that silo.
I sneak the occasional motor racing picture into my watch account, and you should see that only the guys whose race number are following that. They don't see anything else, but nobody else looks at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I go back and forth with, because I do the YouTube channel and then we do 2 live streams a week and then the reviews. I struggle with keeping Instagram up to date. I do have it and I go through phases of, especially with the planner where you can plan out your posts for the week. I go through phases of doing that, but I'm not as up to speed with it as I should be. And then I've shut the Facebook group down because that was becoming an extra piece of the puzzle. So I don't know where. I know there's some people that just solely live on Instagram, don't they? Their whole watch persona is Instagram.
Their whole
But I don't
life is Instagram.
Mostly guilty of that, yeah.
I mean, Andreas has got it, but I think what Andreas there is saying is, of course, families and friends wouldn't understand.
Yeah,
I think that's more. I think that's a very polite way of him saying his partner would probably not be so chuffed about how much money was being spent on watches.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of folk have an anonymous watch account with no real identifying marks. It's like, yeah, if I just put them on here, no one will remember that I've just spent the entire mortgage for the last 2 years on watches.
And I must say, it is really bad when your wife
back.
finds your watch account. Trust me on this.
What Dave just said circles me right back to question number 1. Because I can't buy a Rolex, I'm going to have to buy 2.
Yes, my biggest fear would be my wife getting a hold of my phone and knowing that on Chrono 24 you can click on watch collection and it'll tell me what my watch collection is worth. Because she can go through all my text messages and phone calls. She won't find anything bad there, but she'll get a surprise I don't think she realizes if she was to ever see that number.
That's why I don't have my watch collection summarized anywhere.
Yeah, no, I have a guilty conscience. My wife can tell straight away. She's like, have you had a good day? I'm like, oh yeah, she's fine. What's up? What have you bought?
that classic question, is that new? No. It must have been
Vintage.
dark when you saw it last time. It's not. It definitely isn't a different color to the one you remember from last week.
Or when you get caught having to admit you've been to the Christopher Ward showroom in Maidenhead, and the wife knows you bought something.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Well, how many more have we got left now?
Just one.
Yeah, we just got. You take photographs of your watch in public places. Yeah, I mean, I cannot deny this. I mean, the majority of my YouTube reviews have got me taking pictures of my watches in public places. So I'm definitely a plus for that one.
Oh, I'm guilty of this too. It's
I think
it's
the
where
question is whether or not you feel comfortable taking the watch pictures
Oh,
in public
yeah.
places.
it's
Yeah.
fine until someone says, a random stranger says, "Did you just take a photograph of your watch?" Which has happened, and it's like, what do I say? Because clearly I did.
Right.
I suppose with the world that we live in now, there's people taking pictures of everything, isn't there? Like, you know, Starbucks. They're in Starbucks. They're taking a picture of their drink, or and I maybe because I go to places like theme parks and stuff where people are taking pictures of literally everything in there. So I don't think anyone's ever stopped me. Maybe I've got like a funny look, but I don't think
The
anyone's
question
ever.
is, how many of you have you started to take that picture of your watch in a public place, worked out that you're being clocked, and quickly try to transpose the picture into some artistic work of merit in terms of, oh, look at the ceiling of this building. The architecture of this is absolutely outstanding. Oh, why is my watch in the road? Move out the road, watch. Yeah.
I'm probably guilty of that too, to be fair.
Guilty.
Or you turn it into a point. As if
And then-
pointing. Oh, I'm just pointing
And then
over
you
there.
you randomly look at your photos later and you're like, why the hell did I take a picture of the roof of that building? Oh, that's right. I got caught taking a picture of my watch.
And I can't pretend it's the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm guilty of this 1 hour ago. We went to the Red Rock Canyon right before the stream, and there were these 3 ladies trying to take a photo next to the rock, and it was really windy, and I offered, hey, do you guys want a group shot? And so when I went up there to take a picture, she goes, oh, do you want me to take the picture? And I just looked at her and I go, this is going to sound really stupid, but I'm actually taking a picture of my watch. And yeah, she just looked at me like I was the biggest weirdo in the world and walked back to her car. And, you know, I don't need a picture of me. I just need to be able to go like this.
It's like the biggest weirdo in the world, but probably harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an account I follow, and what he does is he's every time he goes out for dinner, you know, the whole take pictures of the food thing that goes on, and you watch folk awkwardly holding their camera over their food and everything. And every time he goes for food, he takes his watch off and he throws his watch into his dinner and then takes a picture of it. And I actually said to him once, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Killing 2 birds with 1 stone."
Well,
I don't know why, but this,
Unbelievably. It's just horrific every time he does it. And it's a Patek as well. He wears the same Patek and just chucks it in his dinner and takes a picture. I've seen it buried in mashed potato. I've seen it put into, you know, like stew. I've seen it stuck in a steak, all sorts of things. He's even put it round a steak and he's like, oh, that's a good wrist shot, that.
That is crazy. The smell of garlic or whatever ingrained in it, or if it's sugar or something, it's sticky.
I tell you what, though, he never washes the watch, so he probably never needs to ask for Parmesan, so he's pretty good.
That's disgusting.
Oh, dear.
And on that note, the stream will end.
Oh, dear.
Oh, man. That was a great number 10. My neck is hot from this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess for the last sort of 7 minutes, should we tot up ourselves and see how many we got? Like,
Fail.
Oh, you failed. So I think I've got.
What did I got? 1, 2.
I'm going to tot up how many I've got.
1, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, man.
Oh, I reckon I'm a 6 or a 7, I reckon.
I think I've got 9 on here, you know.
I'm going to say, I think I'm an 8. So, so Sam, you're beating me.
We did say 7 was the pass mark.
Right.
Has anybody in the comment? Oh, somebody's got so CEK's got 8 there. Anybody got close to or around that? I think I've got 9 because I don't have I don't know much about a Traveler GMT, but I like NATO's. So Peter's got 6. Chili Badger, who's thank you very much for adminning us tonight. He's our admin. He's got 4.
So, okay, Andreas. Was a 6, a 4, a 7. Oh, yeah, they're all coming in.
7.
All coming in, middle of the class, best position.
We've got a 7 out of 10 from James. Anybody else? Oh, Nicola got 5. Oh, Bill only got 3 out of 10.
Yeah, but Bill,
He's hardcore.
I was the one who scored a 2.
Yeah.
And you can see who wrote the quiz.
Right.
Yeah, and Bill gets 100% for attendance of the live streams. Thank you so much, Bill, for supporting, I think, every single live stream we've done, as well as also there's a few of you that thankfully have supported us right from the start. Of course, Kevin, who's been on everyone as well. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for all your support there. So you got 100% marks for attendance at the show. Palm's got 7.
Mark made the quiz, so he's just making fun of all the rest of us with the quiz.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Setting us up to fail.
I'll take the fifth. I'll take the fifth on that one.
Yeah, so I'll leave the questions in the comment section down below, and if you're watching this on repeat, let us definitely know the scores in the comment section down below, and hopefully you all had fun. Well, any final thoughts on the quiz, or should we close it off there?
Looks like we're all watch enthusiasts. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Yes.
Yes.
However you define it, yes. If you're watching this, you're a watch enthusiast.
Yeah, absolutely.
True.
Yeah,
Well-
it's in the UK. It's Sunday evening, and you're sitting watching 5 grown-ass adult men talk about watches. This kind
You're
of
a watch
defines you
enthusiast.
more than everything you need to know. And I use grown-up men at the loosest possible sense of the word grown-up.
Just by
We
age,
identify as grown up.
We're grown up in that we have to pay bills, but that's about as far as it goes.
I always appreciate Dave's reality check.
Yeah. You can always trust me to bring you back down to earth.
Awesome. Well, a big thanks to the panel, and a big thanks to everyone that's watching. Like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Very much appreciated it. And we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care, guys.